Hi everyone. Um, Thank you for joining this webinar, this 11 Plus workshop today. We will just wait 5 to 10 more minutes and then we will begin very shortly. Hi everyone. So for those of you that are still joining, we're just going to wait a few more minutes till 3:10 and then we'll begin the 11 Plus exam parents workshop. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining the 11 Plus Exam Parents Workshop. So we can definitely see there's lots of parents that have joined now, and hopefully this workshop will be fruitful for all of you guys that are watching today. Yep, if we can move on to the next slide. Yes, so it will be a very interactive session. So at the end, we will be having a Q&A, which feel free to type in your questions during the webinar, and we will definitely answer them at the end. So let's get straight into what we'll be unpacking today. So first off, we will start by understanding the 11 Plus exam and what are the main subjects that your child will be tested on. We will also analyse the key grammar school 11 Plus exam boards, and we will give you our top tips for each of these. We will look at the challenging topics for English, maths and verbal reasoning, and we will provide you with the 11 Plus exam preparation strategies, which will help you identify how you can find your child's weak areas and how you can select the best school. Yep. If we can move on to the next one. So first off, what is the 11 Plus exam? So the 11 Plus exam is used by both grammar and independent schools throughout the UK, and it's part of their selective admissions process. So typically, if you have a child, your child will be sitting this exam during year 5 or the end of year 5 and the beginning of year 6. So for grammar schools, this starts at September 2025, so in the upcoming months after the summer. And if you are looking to send your child to an independent schools, this will be at the start of next year, so January 2026. So there's various different types of 11 Plus exam boards that your child can sit, particularly if you're looking to send to a grammar school. So the main one is the Granada Learning. So this is what we call the GL board of exams. Now this is used by most of the grammar schools in the UK. So as the pie chart shows, a huge percent. That's around 88%, and it translates to 144 schools. The next one is the CSSE. So this is the consortium of selective schools in Essex, and as the name suggests, it is primarily for schools that are in the Essex area. And this is quite a short number of schools as well, a small number of schools. So this is 10 schools and about 6%. Next we have the SET. Then we have the SET, which is the Selective Eligibility Test, and that's around 6 schools. And lastly, we have the FSCE, which is the Future Stories Community Enterprise, which is only 1% of schools. Yep. If we can move on. Okay, so some of the core subjects that your child will be tested on in the 11 Plus exam is English, mathematics, verbal reasoning and non-verbal reasoning. So it's really important you actually check the official school's website page, because a lot of the time, whilst these are primarily tested, some schools do tend to only test, for example, English, mathematics and verbal reasonings, and they may choose to eliminate non-verbal reasoning. So very important you go onto the official website, see the exam board and also the format and the different subjects they test. Yep. So as I mentioned, I'm Ishita. I'm an 11 Plus English consultant. I also was very grateful to go to one of the leading independent schools in the UK, which is City of London School for Girls. And I have also done my degree in Loughborough Business School. So I have a plethora of experience in teaching GL, CEM, CSSE, SET and ISEB exam boards. Yep, if we can move on. So in this part of the workshop, we will be looking at some of the top 5 challenging 11 Plus English topics, and I will also go through some of our tips that we can help you in order to crack these exam questions. So first of all, it's really important to understand the structure of the examination. So for English, you will be typically tested on the comprehension side, the grammar side, and the creative writing side. Now, we will first start off with the comprehension, and a typical question that is often tested in the comprehension is the inference style. So here we have an example of this question. Now, you will be given an extract before this, and this is a follow-up question. So it says, in the second half of paragraph 2, the narrator tells us about Ashni's feelings about who is looking after her. How does Ashni feel about staying with her aunt? Who do you think Ashni wants to take care of her and why? Now, typically for these type of questions, it won't be stated in the passage itself how Ashni feels, so you won't be told that Ashni feels anxious or she feels distraught. However, the way your child can pick up and answer this question is by understanding perhaps the actions of the character. So for instance, if Ashni was said to be quivering or shaking, then you can decipher that Ashni is feeling quite nervous and anxious about staying with her aunt, for example. So a top tip for this would be, as a parent, to ask your child very open-ended questions. So what is really going on here, and who do you think why do you think the character did that? So it's really important to not only read in between the lines, but spot clues within the text. So it's really important actually to have a conversation whilst you're reading extracts with your child. Yep, if you can move on to the next one. Okay, so the other part of the English examination is the creative writing. Now, this is where your creative juices should flow if you are taking the exam. So typically for this section, you will be given an opening to a story like we have here. Now, I won't read the whole thing, but please do in your own time. The last part says, the silence was deafening. The truth sank down like lead. Mrs. Spinton had locked them in the library, the only windowless room in the house. Sarah and Michael were prisoners in their own home. So right off the bat, we can see that the atmosphere of this text is very ominous. There's only one room, only windowless room in the house. They are treated or kept like prisoners in their own home. So that obviously insinuates that it's quite daunting for these children. It's a very a dull and dark atmosphere. So it's really important that when you do read these texts that you're able to pick up on the scene, the context of the passage, and build your writing from that. And the way to build that is by structuring out your writing plan. So always start with the beginning. This should grab your this should grab the examiner's attention. So really hook them in. Then in the middle, this is your build-up. So this is where the main plot of your story should be happening, what we call the climax. So this should be the peak of your writing. And lastly, we have the ending. So this is where you essentially round up your writing, or if you want to take it a step further, and which we advise actually, is to end with a cliffhanger. So this really compels the examiner to continue reading further. Okay? Yes. So the third section is the grammar and literary devices. So for this, the main tip we can really say is to be really well versed with grammar, all the key literacy devices like similes and metaphors. Now, while you can do the process of elimination, which I will show you shortly, it's really important that you actually build your child's grammar bank and they're well versed with these key literacy devices, not just limited to similes and metaphors, but also onomatopoeias, etc., etc. So this question is saying, what type of words are hard-eyed, evil, and sharp? So if you are well versed with your grammar, you know the answer is adjectives. However, if you were to do the process of elimination, which is our top tip, we know that it can't be verbs because they're not doing words. Maybe they could be synonyms, but does hard-eyed really mean evil? No. They could be prefixes, however, there's only one prefix here, which is hard-eyed. There's no prefix for evil or sharp. And then you have option A and B, and that's where your knowledge will play a part, which is adjectives. Okay, if we move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is vocabulary in context. Now, similar to the previous example, it's really important for you to be well versed with vocabulary. So build your vocabulary journal, and it's not only important to build it, but also keep track and add new meanings, add examples, and review your words weekly. I'd even say day by day even. And as a parent, please do quiz your child on the vocabulary. There's not much point just having a vocabulary journal if you're not revisiting it. So this question, which word is closest in meaning to indistinctly? Now, the answer for that is vaguely. However, for the process of elimination, as a child, you might think, okay, I know what distinct means. It means clearly. But here we have the word indistinctly. We can see that it has the word in front. So typically in and un words are antonyms, so it will be the opposite of that. So in this case, the opposite of clearly is vaguely. Okay, perfect. So as we've gone through a lot of grammar, comprehension and vocabulary, and I think an overarching top tip to pass the 11 plus English examination is to be really well versed with different types of text. So that would range from fiction, non-fiction, news articles. For a lot of children, fiction is very fascinating. It's something that they're more inclined towards. However, it's equally important to put emphasis on reading non-fiction and news articles, which obviously can be a bit more challenging. However, that's your role as a parent to encourage this sort of reading. And while we don't give a certain recommendations reading list, we would definitely advise the on-screen text. So A Wrinkle in Time, Huckleberry Finn, Wind in the Willows, Tom Midnight Gardens, and much, much more. And that's because a lot of the extracts have been on these books in previous exams. So that's why it would definitely help. Perfect. So that's from my side. Now we will move on to the 11 plus maths workshop, which will be led by Snehash. So on to you, Snehash.
Thank you, Ishita, for that wonderful breakdown on all the question types of English. Also, those recommendations for reading that appears to be really helpful for the kids. Now, let us walk us through the 11 plus maths journey, focusing on what are the different challenging topics and some of the top tips and tricks which we could be using up to boost our preparation and to ensure we go score a good marks. So let us see the very first question tag. Now, this is again one of the most daunting problems which you would ever come across. That is algebra dependent word problems. The reason I say this is daunting is because it involves more than one step just to solve a single problem. For an example, in this problem, Jason cuts a 100-centimeter row into 3 pieces. We can see in the image there is a shortest piece, a middle piece, and the longest piece. They say longest piece 10 centimeters longer than the middle, shortest is 10 centimeters shorter than the middle, and you need to find the length of the shortest piece. Now, if you just think for a minute, you know the length of the bigger rope is 100 centimeters, but it's chopped down into smaller pieces. You neither know the length of the longest piece nor the shortest piece. But they have given you some comparison that the longest is 20 centimeters longer than the middle and shortest is 10 centimeters shorter. So basically, your child should be able to use this comparison to create equation. What equation is? Algebraic equation. And he should also be able to solve the equation. In this case, if you consider the middle piece as, let's say, m, longest would be m plus 20. Shortest would be m minus 10. So we just had expressions for our missing lengths. Now we need to form an equation. How can we get that? Well, we know that the sum of all the lengths is 100. So you need to add up shortest piece, middle piece, longest piece, and equate it to 100. But the job is not done yet. This is just the basic. You have just formed the equation. Now you need to solve that equation, find the value of variable. So all these steps needs to be done sequentially. This requires a very good practice, understanding of how to convert algebraic equation or the algebraic statements into equations and solve for them. So the ability to understand the question, convert word problem into equation, and solve the equation are the three skill sets required in algebra-based word problems. And this is one of the surest type which will come in the 11 plus exam. Let us now see very similar of the second question type. This is simultaneous equations. This is just stretching up algebra a bit to a good high difficulty. High difficulty because here you would be required not to solve just one equation, but two equations. But as you can see in the question, you can't see any equations given. Again, you need to use the skill of converting the word problem into math. In this question, you got some cows and birds. They say the total number of heads are 50. That means, well, one cow has one head, right? It's fact. So, number of cows plus number of birds, they must add up to 50 because that is nothing but the number of heads. Secondly, they gave you information about 150 legs. Now, we should think of a certain logic so that we could count number of cows and number of birds and relate it to number of legs. A cow typically has 4 legs and a bird has 2 legs. So let's say if number of birds is B and cow is C, what you're going to do? 2 times the number of birds plus 4 times the number of cows, that is 150. So you need to use some basic simple rationale over here to form the equations and then solve these equations. But many of students, I hope here as well, sitting in this webinar, must be preparing for GL-based entrance examinations or some other SET or Kent or some other different board. 90% of the board covers multiple choice questions. So in this case, you won't be required to solve the entire question or all the equations. You just need to verify. Just create the equation and verify the options by putting in the number of cows as 25 for the first attempt and the birds as 25. Then put in the value of cows as 35 and 50. Try to eliminate the options to get the correct answer. That's surely one quicker way to solve these type of problems. Only when you have multiple choice options given. Well, that is something which would really help, as Ishita also talked about eliminating the options. So this is one sure way which we can use up. Let us see some different question type now. The third one for today. Yes. Now, by looking at this problem, they say that there is a square sheet of paper. It's folded and this triangular part is being removed. Now, just by looking at this problem, instinctively, it appears very easy. Well, all you need to do is just take away the area of that small triangle from the square. You will get the area of remaining section, right? But the problem is not that simple. If you observe over here, when you fold this square sheet of paper and when you try to cut one triangular part out of it, how many triangular pieces are we cutting up? 1 or 2? Basically, if you fold a square, you would have 2 sheets of papers, right? And when you cut one triangular part, you are actually not just cutting one triangular part, but 2 triangular pieces. So in this case, you need to calculate the area of one triangular, multiply it by 2, and then subtract it from the area of the square. So initially, what appeared to be a pretty simple problem was not actually that simple. You needed to understand that here, 2 triangular sheets are cutted. So the major important tip is, many a times you need to read and understand the question very carefully to extract what actually is being asked from the question. So underlining the given important information in the question and focusing on what is only asked, that is very crucial while solving any of the problem. Let us see now a different type. Here we have one question from geometry covering nets of solids. The question says, Alicia thinks of a 3D shape which has 6 faces, 12 vertices, and 18 edges. Well, faces, vertices, and edges. What are this? Simple properties of 3D shapes, which everyone must be aware of. Now, you should also be able to count the number of faces, edges, and vertices, not only in simple shapes like cubes or cuboids, but also in prisms and pyramids. But to visualize these shapes, let's say, for example, hexagonal pyramid or hexagonal prism, can be a very challenging task if you don't know the exact difference between prism and pyramid. What happens in prism is you have two common faces at both the ends. All the other faces in prism are rectangular. But if you think of a pyramid, unlike in prism, where it has two common faces across both the ends, pyramid only has one face that we call it as a base. And all the other faces are triangular and they try to merge at one particular point. So now this will help us understand that, let's say if we have a hexagonal pyramid, so it will have a hexagon as a base, that is one face, and it will have remaining all 6 triangular pieces joining to one particular point. Okay. So the number of faces would be 6 for hexagon and 6 for the triangular pieces in the hexagonal pyramid and 1 for the hexagon, making total 7 faces. So this is the way you need to break down each and every shape so that you could be successfully calculating the count of faces, edges, and vertices and solve these types of questions involving nets. Okay. So to learn the properties, you must know the difference between the different types of shapes, including prisms and pyramids. And let us move to the last question type, which we have for today. Yes, this is slicing and painting of cubes. Well, this is one of the topics which has always been asked in majority of the 11+ school exams. But many of the parents and even students are not aware that the topic is even tested. Well, this likely comes under geometry and some part comes under the logical reasoning. What is given over here is there is this 6 times 6 times 6 cube. It's been cut it down into small 1 times 1 times 1 cubes. And it's also painted. The question is, how many cubes are painted exactly on one side? That means how many smaller cubes are painted only on one side? Well, firstly, there are lots of cubes over here. 6 times 6 times 6, that is 216 cubes. Yeah. But you can't see all the 216 cubes to count each of them individually and see which cube has only one face painted. So you must apply certain logic. Well, the logic here is, if you observe the cube at the extreme corners of this bigger cube, all these corner cubes have 3 faces painted, isn't it? The first corner is one which we can very clearly see on the screen. Now, if we ask the number of small cubes with all the 3 faces painted, it will be nothing but all the cubes at the corners. Well, a bigger cube has 8 corners, so all these 8 cubes would have 3 faces painted. Likewise, if you see the cubes lying along the edges, except the corners, that will have 2 faces painted. And apart from the edges and the corners, all the cubes at the center of a face, those cubes would have only one side painted. So this is how you need to deduce the logic by visually understanding how the cubes at different positions have different number of faces painted and get to an answer. So the ability to logically to visualize and then logically deduce conclusions to get to the final answer is also one of the most challenging part which has been appearing up many a times from the last years in the 11+ exams. So over and now, you must have the ability to read the problem, understand the problem, know the concept extremely well so that you can use all the types of tips and tricks which you have in your pocket and get to the final answer as quickly and efficiently as possible with accuracy. So that was a very short brief about 11 plus maths. Now, I would like to invite my colleague to describe in brief about 11 plus verbal reasoning topics, including tips and tricks. So, Urvashi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sneharsh, for a great walkthrough of top 5 challenging questions for the maths. And now it's time for the verbal reasoning. So let's quickly look at the top 3 challenging 11 plus VR topics along with some of the quick tricks. So first one is about the codes. I'm sure you might have already been accustomed to seeing such kind of questions. But today we are going to not just discuss the question, but also how you can solve these questions faster. So if we look at this question, it says that there are 4 words and 3 codes given below. Each code matches one of the words, but they are not written in the same order. One of the words does not have a code. Work out the correct code for each word and then answer the questions that follow. And we have to circle the correct answer from the choices given in the option. So here you can see that there are 4 words and each of these words letters have some number assigned to it. So if we look closely at the question, what does it ask? What does number 1, 2, 4, 3 mean here? So that means we need to find out the word from what these numbers could relate to, the letters. So if we look at closely in this letters, we have to find out some pattern. So here, I can quickly see at the question and see that the letter, some of the letters are repeated multiple times. So if I see closely, I can see that the letter T is coming here as well and here as well. So, and if I look at the numbers, I can see that the number 3 is also coming at the same place. Here it is the first letter. Here also it is the first number. Here the letter T is coming at the 3rd position and the number also is coming at the 3rd position. By just looking at this, I can make out that the number 3 corresponds to the letter T. So if we now look at the question, we see that the number 3 is coming at the last position. And if we just do the elimination method, as we have already discussed, we can see that the number 3, the letter T should also come at the last. And there is only just one option which makes like that. So with this, we can make out that the correct answer is SILT, silt. So the main tip here is that we need to look for the patterns and repetitions in the words and numbers provided. To double check, if you want to be double sure that if you are correct or not, we can quickly see that if this is the right answer, then number 4 must correspond to the letter L. And if we look at this, we know that this number corresponds to this. Then we can also make out that the letter L is at the 3rd position and so is the number 4. So again, we can make out that this answer is correct. Now, let's move on to the next question, which is on the topic of making words. This question is also very, very popular and most frequently asked. So in such kind of questions, a 4-letter word is hidden between 2 words. There would be a line given to you and there would be a 4-letter word. So we need to be very careful about when we are reading the question. A 4-letter word is hidden between 2 words. The 2 words will always be next to each other. Find the pair of words and circle them from the options provided. So as you can see, there is an example question is also given. Here, the 2 words are the noise, and from that a 4-letter word is made by THEN. So similarly, if we look at the question below, this is a very long sentence, and if we go on making out the number of pair of words that can make sense, it would be taking a lot of time. So the best method here is to just look at the options. Start with the options is what we have given as a practice tip. And we need to read the combinations aloud to see if they make sense. For example, the first option says landed on. So if I make a 4-letter word with two letters each on the side, then it would be like D-E-D-O, which does not make sense, deado. Then EDON, that also does not make any sense. So this option is eliminated. Similarly, if we look at this, APLA does not make any sense. Similarly, also that MAPL does not also make any sense. Maple is nothing. So now if we read another 4-letter word that we can make out of this is PLAN. That's plan. So yes, that makes for a correct option, and just by eliminating the options we can arrive at the right answer. So here the correct 4-letter word that makes sense is plan, and the right option is this, map blended. I hope that makes sense. So right now, if you would have just read the entire question and go on making all the 4-letter combinations from each of the words, it would have taken you a lot of time. It would have created actually 12 combinations. So instead of that, we just look at the options. We just have to make out from the 5 word options that are given to us, 5 pair of words, and then we would be able to get to the answer quickly. Also ensure that we are reading the word out loud. Sometimes we happen to think that it is a correct word, but when you read it out loud, we come to know that no, it does not make any sense. For example, maple. Maple is actually a word, but when but when you see it, the spelling, it is a wrong spelling. So that's why that's not the correct answer. Now moving on to the last question for the verbal reasoning. Yes, this is from the topic of verbal reasoning maths. So here you can see that there are number series sequences given on. In the example, we have to find the number that continues the sequence in the most sensible way and write in the space given. For example, here if you read this, if you see this sequence, this is basically the answer which was supposed to be. Here you can see that 12, then 25, 51 and 103. If we look at it closely, we know that 12 into 2 is 24 plus 1 is 25. Similarly, 25 into 2 is 50 and then plus 1 is 51. And 51 into 2 is 102 plus 1 is 103. So if we have to find the next one, it's simply 103 into 2 plus 1, which brings us to the answer. Now, for such kind of questions, it is really, really important for us to see the patterns in consecutive numbers. So right now, if this was the answer that related to the consecutive numbers, 12, 25, 25 then got related to 51, 51 got related to 103 and so on. Some other possible ways can also be that the alternate numbers are related. So if we look at this problem closely, you can see that the alternate numbers are related. So 105 minus 10 brings us to 95. 95 minus 10 brings us to 85. And so we know that the possible answer could be 75. But then let's check the other alternate numbers as well. So the second number is 27. If we add 20 to it, it brings us to 47. And then again, if we bring 20 to it, then it brings us to 67. Had we have been given here one more space, it would have been 87. But right now, since it's an alternate number series, we would be marking the answer as 75 because this is the sequence that we are following. 105, 95, 85, and then 75. So I hope this was clear because this is where it is very, very important that we recognize the patterns really well. It's not always that the consecutive numbers are related, so we just try to make out the relation between these two numbers. Sometimes we have to zoom out a little bit and see the entire sequence in whole. Sometimes it can also be related to multiples of numbers, like it could be related to cubes, it could be squares, anything. So think from that and try to be friendly with numbers so it would make it easier for you to gauge the pattern. Now that brings us to an end about the top subjects that we have discussed, like maths, English, verbal reasoning. We have tried to help you out with some of the tricks that you can follow while practicing the exams. Now to tell you more, there are few more preparation strategies that are curated by our experts, and we have tested it from time and again. That you need to focus on the overall 11 plus exam syllabus and concepts. Sometimes we have our set schools and board in our perspective, so we always try to practice the questions related to that board specifically. But sometimes it does happen that the schools actually change the pattern in between the year and we do not realize it. So do not restrict yourself to the exam board pattern and cover the entire 11 plus syllabus so that your fundamentals are in place. And when the exam day arrives, you are not, surprised when you see the question which you have never solved before. There are variety of questions, and hence you need to be holistically prepared, understand the fundamentals, which is very, very important. And then when the exam time comes nearby, you can maybe restrict yourself to the particular exam board you are focusing on. Next is practicing multi-topic questions. So for that, I will also like to show you some of the topics that are covered on Pi Academy. Pi Academy is a sponsored partner for this webinar as well. So you can see that there are several topics you need to talk. You need to basically practice the questions from several topics, not just one topic. So here you can see that we have here all the topics are marked in the tags. Some questions are related from numbers, multiplication, division, and also the word problems. The entire list of the topics is given here. So whichever topic you feel that you are not strong at, you can quickly go there and practice that questions. So here also you can see multi-topic questions like this and a lot more. So here you can see that the question also has mean, median, mode, range also included. So it is important to practice multi-topic questions and not just the one topic. Similarly, we need to carry out frequent revisions now that only 3 months are left. I think less than 3 months are remaining till the real exam date. So we need to be very, very hands-on with our revision strategies as well. We need to start taking notes as to where are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and I am sure you might have also started to take on mocks as well. While taking the mocks is important, but ensure that we are also analyzing the mock. We are also analyzing what were our strengths, what were our weak topics, and then practice those topics before jumping on to the next mock. So that is what the last bullet point also says, that we need to focus on building on child's weak areas. So for that, I would also like to walk you through one very interesting thing that we have on Pi Academy, which is the 11 plus revision and practice. Now that we are talking about the revision, you can just come over here and you can see that there are 10-minute tests on 90 topics. So depending on your topics, you can quickly go through these, topics and take a revision to analyze where do you stand. So it would be very, very helpful to, practice right now, then to just go on practicing and developing your strengths and areas. So this is the time you need to start working on your weak areas even more than before, because by now you might have started to realize what are your weak areas. Moving on, again, how to find my child's weak areas is a very, very common question that a lot of parents keep asking. So for that, I would just note down a few points, which is that give your child first a full length paper to solve under the timed conditions. So once the paper is given, you need to then separate the questions on the basis of the topics and the subtopics that you can do for both English and the maths paper. I will also show you how we do it, how Pi Academy does it in the sample assessment report in a while. But after that, you can then mark their scores of the entire paper and analyze how did they do. So by now, since only 3 months are remaining, the score should ideally be around 80% or more actually. So to tell you how you can make that sample report yourself, or you can take help of Pi Academy, you can have a look at this. For maths, when the paper is given, a tutor notes down every topic that is there in the question paper and what are the total marks available and how much the marks the student has achieved. So here you can see that the marks are noted down. And at the end, we also note down what were the completely wrong questions and which questions were partially wrong. So in some cases, the solutions would have been made nicely, but the final answer could have been wrong. So from this table, we can actually analyze the child's weak areas. And at the bottom of that math section, the tutor also provides the feedback, like what were the exact mistakes made by the student and how can they improve it. This is a sample assessment report, so we are just hiding the name of the student. Then at the end, the tutor also gives the curated and customized recommendations for the student, so how they can prepare and start building their weak areas. They also give a suggested course plan depending on the time left with the student for the exam. Similarly, coming to the English assessment report, as Ishita already noted down, there are several types of questions. There are inference questions. We need to then identify the inference made. Then there is a lot more. Like you can see that the mistakes. There is the ideal model answer also given, and also the tutor's comment on how the student's answer was. Then there is the complete writing checklist for the creative writing. There has to be a proper structure when there is a creative writing. There has to be a beginning, a middle, and the end. So you can see here the complete structure is given, and the student is gauged on all such things. The tutor also checks whether there was a spelling, punctuation, and grammar were used correctly or not. Did the student follow the correct structure? Did they add some adjectives, connectives, etc.? How was the vocabulary? Did they use some, maybe difficult words or not? Did they use the language techniques like simile or a metaphor in their answers? And finally, the overall comment is given. So that's how detailed the sample assessment report is at Pi Academy. If you want to check that report out, you can come to the Pi Academy and hover to the pricing section. From here, you can see the fourth option is the diagnostic assessment. From here, you can book the diagnostic assessment form, and a support team would be reaching out to know the exact date and timing and the subject where you would be taking the diagnostic assessment for. So maybe I would request the support team to send this link in the chat box for parents to easily find that. Then at the bottom of it, you can again see we provide a lot of recommended papers, reading materials, and a lot of things where a student can exactly prepare and see a roadmap as to how they can improve their writing skills. Moving on. Now comes a very interesting question on how to select the best school. By now, I'm sure a lot of you already have some schools in the mind, but there are a few key factors which you need to consider before we start on selecting and identifying the best school, which is the first is consider your financial commitment. It is very, very important to know whether you would like for your child to go into the private or the independent school, or where the extracurriculars opportunities are more, and a lot of opportunities can be there. You can also identify how the number of schools students are there, what is the oversubscription rate for those schools, and I will quickly walk you through as well. Then there's the second option is the grammar school, which is a state funded school. So this is also a very, very great opportunity for parents who wants to let their child go into the grammar school. And this stage is very, very important for them to decide because the transition is going to happen. So it is a very crucial decision to talk it through and then decide what could be your selected top 3 schools. Also, you should always look at the school oversubscription criteria. You should be able to identify what could be the chances of your child for getting into that school by looking at the oversubscription criteria. You can make out how many applicants are applying over the past couple of years, not just the past year. You can see the trend in that. I will quickly show you on SchoolUniGuide how you can see that information. So to walk you through that, you can simply come to SchoolUniGuide website. This is how the landing page looks like. And you can search for your selected school. For example, if I'm going to search for Tiffin Girls School, I can quickly go to the school information page. This page would have all the details about the school's catchment area, its A-level GCSE results, admissions, community, jobs, everything. So to walk you through that, you can see the admission process, the dates, and also when you go to the catchment area, you would be able to see a link here. From here, you would be able to see some more options, like what is the oversubscription of the school, how was the trend in the past couple of years, and you would also be able to see the cohort sizes, what were the number of students, number of boys and girls in the school, what are the crime rates and around in and around that school, and the ethnicities of the school as well. So this is a very, very crucial information which will be helpful for the parents. And of course, oversubscription, as I was talking about, you can see from here that a clear bifurcation is given as to in which year how many applications were received and how many offers were made. So the plan is very, very affordably priced at just £9.99. You can quickly click on the subscribe button and hover to the price. Right, there is some background noise. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, that was one. Apart from that, you can definitely read out the complete information about the school. You can also see that we have a maps page. You can check if you fall within the catchment area or not. You can come here. This is how the maps page looks like. You can then click here, search for your school, and type. You can see the circles are coming up, which shows the catchment area. You can type your postcode as well. And you would be able to see the distance from your home. So just, yeah, here you can see that my home distance is right now very, very far from the school. So that gives me an indication that maybe I do not fall into the catchment area. Once you subscribe to our plan, you would be also able to see the exact distance and the straight line distance and where the most of the pupils are coming from. Apart from that, you can also see some of the icons here, which shows what are the nearby tutors available, what are the nearby clubs, estate agents, and the child minders for the matter, if you would like. So this is a very, very inclusive tool which tells you a lot of things which parents might struggle and are actually struggling. So this is just to walk you through that. I would also request the support team to drop the SchoolUniGuide link on the chat box and also the maps page for easy reference. Now, with this, we come to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for attending. And I would request all of you to now start dropping your questions on the chat box. But meanwhile, you do that, I would also like to give you a token of thanks, which is you can use the code SUG25 for a straight 25% off on 3 of our most selling guides, which is the top 100 independent schools guide, top grammar schools guide, and school catchment area and relocation guide. So just to walk you through the guide section as well, I would quickly like to show you that on SchoolUniGuide, there is a shop section, and under that, you can see that the guides and services are there. Once you click on that, you would be able to see the guides. These guides are very, very, intensively made by the experts, 11 plus exam experts, and some parents sharing their experiences. So you can read a lot get to know a lot about these guides. For example, I would just like to show you this guide, Independent School. Here you would be able to see not just the school information, but also the application process, interview preparation, and exam strategies. So this is how the guide looks like. You can see the table of content. We have covered everything from independent school for international students, how to appeal to a school's decision, what are the top 25 questions every parent should ask on school open days. There's a timeline also given, how to build the confidence and character while your children is mastering, for your children to master the interview, how to tackle the nerves and build the confidence when you are going through the 11th class exam anxiety. Some of these editorials are written by the parents as well, and also the experienced tutors. Apart from that, we have also given the checklist on the exam results day and what you should be exactly doing. So apart from that, now coming on to the main section, here we have detailed out the top 100 independent schools. And when you click on any of the school, you would be taken to that school's internal page, and you would be taken to read about the history of the school, the GCSE A-level results, the extracurriculars, the leavers destination, and also some of the quick links which you can help yourself out with. So this is how detailed our guide is, and this is not just for the independent school but also for the grammar schools. And in the catchment area guide, we have again showed how you can make sure that you are getting into the exact catchment area and how to appeal the decision. And also you can also learn a lot about how is it calculated, and if you are still confused whether you fall into it or not, you can definitely reach out to us, and we also would be happy to provide a consultancy. So with that, we come to an end. And apart from that, since Pi Academy is the sponsor, the coupon code SUG25 is also applicable on Pi Academy. It would be very much applicable on almost all of the products. And to let you know, we have recently launched our summer courses. As the summer holidays are about to come in a month, you can take the advantage by booking early and using the coupon code, as this coupon code would only be valid for the next 2 days. And you can see that we have launched a lot of courses already, which is the 11 plus exam GL booster, which starting from 23rd of July. It's a 10 days intensive course for a daily of 2.5 hours per day. And once you click on the seat, you will be taken to all the details about what 10 days would look like. You can read out what is the plan, what's the timings, what are the dates, and a lot more. So with this, the GL batch is one. Then we have the comprehension, creative writing, maths booster course, which is again for 10 days. And we have the SET specific revision workshop for 3 hours. And then we have the non-verbal reasoning course, English booster, verbal reasoning, and batch 2 would also be launching soon. But batch 1 is already out, and you can make the advantage of it by using the code SUG25 for a straight 25% off, no questions asked. So that was all from my side. I can see a lot of questions have already popped in the chat. What books are best to read? Yes, Hannah is asking. So Hannah, we have already mentioned the list of the best books on our this slide. We will be sharing the list on the email. I mean, this entire presentation would be shared with you on the email post this webinar. And then you can maybe look at that list again. How would you solve the rope question? I think that's asked by some student. We would not like to go to the specifics of the questions right now. I hope you understand, because we are actually about the time. But yes, so since you would be getting the presentation, you can try to solve that question in your meantime, and the recording will also be there. So you can maybe have a look at that. When does the 25% off expire? So as I said, the coupon code is going to be valid for 2 days. So you can say that till 31st of July, 31st of June, it is going to be valid. And it is going to be valid on both Pi Academy and SchoolUniGuide. When do we need to register for ISEB? So Vani is asking. So for that, Vani, I would request you to check out the latest details, official details, as that would be the best source of information. Yeah, okay. How much we need to score for a highly selective school like QE? Snehash, would you like to take that in EPP paper? He's asking.
Yes.
Yes.
So while preparing, this question is asked by Nilaksh.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry if I pronounce it in some other way. How much we need to score in EPP paper for highly selective school like QE? Now, for the schools like Queen Elizabeth, for each of the subject we are preparing for, we need a minimum of 75 to 78%. There is no fixed score as such, as all the raw scores would be turned into standardized score. That means based on the age of the child appearing for the exam and based on the performance in the individual subject, a standardized score would be created out. Okay. Now, in order to pass, or in order to be ensured that we are passing in, the eligibility criteria is to minimum get 75 to 80% of the marks in each of the subject. Not only overall, but in each of the subject. Yes. So that's the level of preparation required for highly selective school like QE. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, and I think I just realized that you were not able to see my rest of the screen when I was sharing and talking. I'm so sorry for that. I will quickly walk you through that all in just a few minutes. But let me just take the questions again. Hi, only 3 months left. Could you please advise some realistic revision method? Is there any tools we can use to plan the revision? Yes. So Sad is asking, we would be sharing the 3 months planner for the revision on the email. That is for sure. And apart from that, I would again quickly like to show you. This is how the revision looks like. You can have a look at the topic wise questions first. As I already told you that whatever your weak topics are, you can. I hope my entire screen is visible now. Snehash, can you confirm?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So you can see that a lot of questions are there here. You can check what are your weak problems and do that specific topic to get to know everything in detail. That was the one I was talking about, that each questions are tagged. So you can see the multi-topic questions here. So that is one. Apart from that, you can also take use of the courses. Summer courses are going to be very intensive and revision focused. So depending on whatever courses is suitable for you, you can definitely check these courses out. All the information is out. We are starting the courses from 23rd of July. You can hover on to this section on 11 plus courses and you would be landing onto this page. So from here, you can check all the information, how the days are going structured and what are the topics that we are going to cover, along with the exact timings and everything. There's also going to be a final mock exam for most of these courses. So you can also check that out. And in the email, I would also be attaching a sample assessment report, which I walked through, but I was not sure that my screen was not shared. So I'll just send this also across in the email. If you would like, you can book a diagnostic assessment from our website, and a tutor would be taking a exam with you, and then you would be getting to know where do you exactly stand at. Along with that, you would also be getting a proper structure of how you need to plan, and following that, you can definitely use that in terms of your revision strategy. Okay, any tips to complete the creative writing section in time? For example, how many lines are sufficient for each paragraph? Yes, somebody has asked this question, and for that, I would quickly like to show you that in the diagnostic assessment that we take, if you book it with us, you would be getting a detailed report on the creative writing structure. We follow a creative writing checklist, which I'll just show you. So for this, there is a checklist which we follow, which we ensure that there is a beginning, middle, and end, which is the basic structure. But apart from that, there has to be a lot of things which are taken care of, like the spelling, punctuation, grammar, then the vocabulary, then the language techniques, and finally the overall comment is mentioned by the tutor. Definitely there is a model answer, and your answer is then gauged based on that model answer. Apart from that, we provide a detailed feedback on your writing and steps on how to improve as well. Then a complete course plan is also shared. And apart from that, if you would like to know more, you can definitely try out our creative writing intensive course, which is for 5 days and every day just 1.5 hours per day. It's for £199, and you can use the SUG25 coupon code and get the flat 25% off. This offer is again valid for 2 days only. So just want to repeat that. Apart from that, since somebody asked about the revision, you can come to this revision and practice section, and this also has 10 minutes quick tests on 90 topics. So you can maybe download all the tests and do your practice at your own time. So this is again a very, very important and helpful resource, I would say. So this is going to be really, really helpful. Let me see the next questions. How much do you need to score for Colchester Royal Grammar School? Ashutosh is asking. So Ashutosh, for that, it's important for you to hover on to SchoolUniGuide, read about the GCSE A-level the past results and what has the school said about it. All the information are available on SchoolUniGuide platform about that school. So you can take that. what is the best resource for maths word problems? Again, for maths word problems, if you think that is your weak criteria, you can join our course on the maths booster. Specifically, 10 days course has come out for the maths booster. So that course is very detailed, and we would be definitely discussing about the word problems, because word problems is the main topic where a lot of topics and subtopics gets covered. So you can maybe check that out. Support team can send the link of the maths booster course as well on the chat. So maths from private schools much difficult from the most of the GL schools. Is there Snehash, can you take this question of Jessica? She's asking about.
Yes. So Jessica, for the question, is a resource of your maths from private schools much different from most of the GL schools? So very firstly, Urvashi, can you please hover down to 11 plus maths past papers?
Yeah.
Yes. Open it. So all the list of schools, firstly, all these independent schools, they are the only ones which publish their past paper. Neither of the schools following GL exam board publishes their past papers online. To describe in other way, they try to keep their exam format confidential. Okay. So does that mean it's a huge difference between the GL exam format and the papers for the independent or the private schools? The actual answer is no. Syllabus-wise, curriculum-wise, it's the same. Types of questions, almost the same. Only exception is in GL, there are multiple choice format. And let's say over a period of 45 to 50 minutes, you're expected to solve more than 25 to 30 questions. And based on the different region, let's say for Kent or for Bucks or for CSSE, we can have different number of questions required to be solved under the given time period. But the question syllabus is the same, question type is the same, objective of testing the students is the same. Only difference is the format of the questions. In some cases, it might be multiple choice, which is the case, and in the other cases, it might be something else, like standard question format. Yeah.
Right. Yes, I think we covered all the questions, and thank you all for attending the workshop today. I hope it really helped you out. And just wait for our email. We would be sending it out shortly, and we would be putting all the resources, links, the presentation, and whatever we have spoken about. You can definitely check out the recording as well. And I hope you enjoyed. So thank you all for joining again. Yeah.
Thank you.